Almonds. "Ay, my neck hurts," said Mamma, as she massaged the back of her head with her hand. "It is not my neck, it's my arms that are sore," said Hortensia. "It is the same for everyone," said Josefina. "When you first start in the sheds, the body refuses to bend, but in time, you will get used to the work." Everyone had come home that night tired and with various aches and pains. They gathered in one cabin for dinner, so it was crowded and noisy. Josefina warmed a pot of beans, and Hortensia made fresh tortillas. Juan and Alfonso talked about the fields while Miguel and Isabel played with the babies, making them squeal with laughter. Mamá cooked arroz, and Esperanza was surprised that Mamá knew just how to brown it first in oil with onions and peppers. Esperanza chopped tomates for a salad and hoped no one would mention the sweeping. She was glad this day was over. Her bruises had been to her pride. Isabel took a fresh tortilla, sprinkled it with salt, rolled it up like a cigar, and waved it at Miguel. "How come you and Tio Alfonso won't let me go behind the cabin with you?" "Shh," he said. "It's a surprise." "Why are you so full of secrets?" asked Esperanza. But neither Alfonso nor Miguel answered. They simply smiled while they prepared their plates. They ate dinner, but before they could slice a cantaloupe for dessert, Alfonso and Miguel disappeared with instructions not to follow them. "What are they doing?" demanded Isabel. Hortensia shrugged as if she knew nothing. Miguel came back just before sunset. "Señora and Esperanza, we have something to show you." Esperanza looked at Mamá. It was obvious Mamá was as confused as she was. They all followed Miguel to where Alfonso was waiting. Behind the cabin was an old oval washtub with one end cut off. It had been set on its side, forming a little shrine around a plastic statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Someone had built a grotto of rocks around the base of the tub. Around it, a large plot of earth had been fenced in by sticks and rope and planted with thorny stems, each with only a few branches. Isabel gasped. "It's beautiful. Is that our statue?" Josefina nodded. "But the roses come from far away." Esperanza searched Miguel's face, her eyes hopeful. "Papa's?" "Yes, these are your papa's roses," said Miguel, smiling at her. Alfonso had dug circles of earth around each plant, casitas, little houses that made moats for deep watering, just like he had done in Aguascalientes. "But how?" Esperanza remembered the rose garden as a blackened graveyard. "After the fire, my father and I dug down to the roots. Many were still healthy. We carried the cuttings from Aguascalientes, and that's why we had to keep them wet. We think they will grow. In time, we will see how many bloom." Esperanza bent closer to look at the stems rooted in mulch. They were leafless and stubby, but lovingly planted. She remembered the night before the fire when she had last seen the roses and had wanted to ask Hortensia to make rosehip tea, but she'd never had the chance. Now, if they bloomed, she could drink the memories of the roses that had known Papa. She looked at Miguel, blinking back tears. "Which one is yours?" Miguel pointed to one. "Which one is mine?" He smiled and pointed to the one that was closest to the cabin wall and already had a makeshift trellis propped against it. "So you can climb," he said. Mamá walked up and down, carefully touching each cutting. She took Alfonso's hands in her own and kissed him on each cheek. Then she went to Miguel and did the same. "Muchas gracias," she said. Mamá looked at Esperanza. "Didn't I tell you that Papa's heart would find us wherever we go?" The platform was lit up with big lights. Men from the camp in starched and pressed shirts and cowboy hats sat in chairs tuning their guitars and violins. Long rows of tables were covered in bright tablecloths where women sold tamales, desserts, and the specialty, agua de Jamaica, hibiscus flower water punch, made with the red Mexican Jamaica bloom. There was bingo on wooden tables and a long line of chairs circling the dance area for those who wanted to watch. That's where Mama and Hortensia sat, talking to other women. Esperanza stayed close to them, watching the growing crowd. "Where do all the people come from?" she asked. The other night, she had heard Juan say that about 200 people lived in their camp, but there were many more than that now. "These fiestas are popular. People come from other camps," said Josefina, "and from Bakersfield, too." When the music started, everyone crowded around the platform, clapping and singing. People started dancing in the area around the stage. Children ran everywhere, chasing and hiding. Men held young boys on their shoulders, and women swaddled their infants, all of them swaying to the sounds of the small band. After a while, Esperanza left Mama and the others and wandered through the noisy crowd, thinking how strange it was that she could be in the middle of so many people and still feel so alone. She saw a group of girls who seemed about her age, but they were huddled together. More than anything, she wished Marisol were here. Isabel found her and pulled on her hand. "Esperanza, come and see." Esperanza let herself be led through the crowd. Someone from town had brought a litter of kittens. A group of girls were crowded next to the cardboard box, cooing and cradling them. It was clear that Isabel desperately wanted one. Esperanza whispered to her, "I will go ask your mother." She wove back through the crowd to find Josefina, and when she agreed, Esperanza practically ran back to the spot to tell Isabel. But when she got there, a bigger crowd had gathered and something else was going on. Marta and some of her friends stood in the bed of a truck that was parked nearby, each of them holding up one of the tiny kittens. "This is what we are," she yelled. "Small, meek animals. And that is how they treat us, because we don't speak up. If we don't ask for what is rightfully ours, we will never get it. Is this how we want to live?" She held the kitten by the back of the neck, waving it high in the air. It hung limp in front of the crowd. "With no decent home and at the mercy of those bigger than us, richer than us?" Isabel trembled, her eyes in a panic. "Will she drop it?" A man called out, "Maybe all that cat wants to do is feed its family. Maybe it doesn't care what all the other cats are doing." "Señor, does it not bother you that some of your compadres live better than others?" yelled one of Marta's friends. "We are going to strike in 2 weeks, at the peak of the cotton, for higher wages and better housing." "We don't pick cotton on this farm," yelled another man from their camp. "What does it matter?" yelled Marta. "If we all stop working, if all the Mexicans are juntos, together," she made a fist and held it in the air, "then maybe it will help us all." He yelled back, "That is a chance we cannot take. We just want to work. That's why we came here. Get out of our camp." A cheer rose up around him. People started shoving, and Esperanza grabbed Isabel's hand and pulled her aside. A young man jumped into the truck and started the engine. Marta and the others tossed the kittens into the field. Then they pulled some of their supporters into the back of the truck with them and raised their arms, chanting, "Huelga! Huelga! Strike! Strike!" "Why is she so angry?" asked Esperanza, as she walked back to the cabin a few hours later with Josefina, Isabel, and the babies, leaving the others to stay later. Isabel carried the soft, mewing orange kitten in her arms. "She and her mother move around to find work, sometimes all over the state," said Josefina. "They work wherever there is something to be harvested. Those camps, the migrant camps, are the worst." "Like when we were in El Centro?" said Isabel. "Worse," said Josefina. "Our camp is a company camp, and people who work here don't leave. Some live here for many years. That is why we came to this country, to work, to take care of our families, to become citizens. We are lucky because our camp is better than most. There are many of us who don't want to get involved in the strike because we can't afford to lose our jobs. And we are accustomed to how things are in our little community." "They want to strike for better houses?" asked Esperanza. That and more money for those who pick cotton, said Josefina. They only get 7 cents a pound for picking cotton. They want 10 cents a pound. It seems like such a small price to pay, but in the past, the growers said no. And now, more people are coming to the valley to look for work, especially from places like Oklahoma, where there is little work, little rain, and little hope. If the Mexicans strike, the big farms will simply hire others. Then what would we do? Esperanza wondered what would happen if Mama did not have a job. Would they have to go back to Mexico? Josefina put the babies to bed. Then she kissed Isabel and Esperanza on their foreheads and sent them next door. Isabel and Esperanza lay in their beds listening to the music and the bursts of laughter in the background. The kitten, after drinking a bowl of milk, curled up in Isabel's arms. Esperanza tried to imagine conditions that were more shabby than this room that was covered in newspaper to keep out the wind. Could things possibly be worse?